Millions of people watched her grow up 1 minute at a time. They just didn't know they were also watching her disappear. She was 6 years old the first time her father filmed her. It wasn't planned. Nothing about it was. He had just come home from a double shift, 12 hours on his feet, working at a warehouse that smelled like dust and engine oil. He was tired in a way that goes past tired, the kind where you don't feel your body anymore, where the couch looks like the most beautiful thing you've ever seen in your life. But then he heard her. She was in the kitchen, standing on her little step stool, the yellow one with the duck painted on the side, stirring a bowl of cereal with a wooden spoon like it was a serious, important task, like she was a chef in a 5-star restaurant preparing something legendary. She was humming some song she'd made up herself, no melody that existed anywhere else in the world. Her name was Nora, and something about that moment, the way the late afternoon light came to the window and landed on her hair, the way she was so completely in her own world, unbothered and free, made him reach into his pocket and press record. He didn't say anything. He just watched. 30 seconds later, Nora turned around, saw the camera, and announced, "Daddy, I'm making soup." It was cereal, dry cereal, with no milk. He laughed so hard he had to sit down on the floor. That was the video. That was the whole thing. 38 seconds of a little girl with a wooden spoon and an imagination bigger than the kitchen she stood in. He almost didn't post it. Almost. But 11 p.m., when she was asleep and the house was quiet, he uploaded it with no caption except her name and a single red heart. By morning, it had 4 million views. Their apartment wasn't much. 2 bedrooms on the 3rd floor of a building that groaned when the wind blew. A radiator that clicked and hissed all winter like it was trying to have a conversation. Hallways that smelled like someone else's dinner. But inside was Nora's world. She had covered the living room wall with drawings. Not the wall she was allowed to draw on. All of them. Mountains and dogs and what she described as a whale going to school. Her father had repainted that wall 3 times. After the 3rd time, he stopped trying. He started filming instead. He filmed her building towers out of soup cans because they'd run out of blocks. He filmed her conducting imaginary orchestras with a ruler as her baton. He filmed her explaining, with complete seriousness, that the clouds outside were actually sleeping polar bears, and that rain was just some snoring. The internet went absolutely feral for it. Comments poured in from every corner of the world. Parents in Brazil, saying she reminded them of their own daughters. A retired schoolteacher in Scotland who said watching Nora was the only thing that made her laugh anymore. A man in South Korea who posted every day just to say, "Good morning. I came to see what Nora is doing today." She had a name in 20 languages. Her father, a man named Daniel, though almost no one knew that, because the channel was always about her, read every comment, every single one. In the beginning, he would screenshot the kindest ones and stick them on the refrigerator. This little girl healed something in me I didn't know was broken. I watch her when I miss my daughter. Thank you for sharing her with us. She makes the world feel less heavy. He believed them. He wanted to believe them. And for a while, everything felt exactly as bright as it looked on screen. It started with the cereal, not the soup she'd been pretending to cook. Her actual breakfast. She stopped eating it, not in a dramatic way, not in a way that announced itself. She would sit at the table, pick up her spoon, move things around the bowl, and then look up at Daniel with those big, dark eyes and say she wasn't hungry yet. He didn't think much of it. Kids were picky. Kids were inconsistent. Everyone told him that. Then she started getting tired earlier. Nora had always been the kind of child who fought sleep like it was her enemy. Bedtime was a negotiation, a performance, sometimes a full theatrical production. She would ask for water, then a different water, Then she'd remember that she'd forgotten to tell him something very important about something a bird did at recess. But now she was asleep by 7:30, sometimes 6. He told himself it was a growth spurt. He'd read about those online. Kids burning more energy, needing more rest. It made sense. He filed it under probably nothing and kept filming. The videos never showed any of that. The videos showed her laughing, her dancing to songs on the radio with her socks slipping on the kitchen tile, her telling elaborate stories about the family of raccoons she was convinced lived behind the dumpster in the parking lot and had very complex social dynamics. The comments said things like, "She has so much energy. Will you feed her?" And Daniel would smile at his phone and not answer, because the truth was she wasn't eating much of anything. And he was starting to notice. He was starting to count. He took her in on a Tuesday in October. He told himself it was just a checkup. He told Nora the same thing. She wore her jacket with the stars on it and held his hand in the waiting room and asked if doctors had feelings or if they were more like robots who went home and charged at night. He said he thought they probably had feelings. She considered this. Then it must be hard, she said, knowing about sick people all the time. He didn't know what to say to that. The pediatrician was a calm woman with reading glasses she wore on a chain around her neck. She checked Nora's reflexes, listened to her breathing, looked at her ears. She smiled at Nora the whole time, the way good doctors learn to smile, present and warm but giving nothing away. Then she asked Daniel to step into the hallway. He still remembers the sound of the door closing, the way the latch clicked, the particular quiet of that hallway, with its poster about hand washing and its plastic chairs lined up against the wall. She said some words like concerning and follow-up and specialist. He heard all of them and understood none of them. He went back into the room, and Nora was sitting on the crinkly paper of the exam table, swinging her legs, asking the nurse if she had a favorite dinosaur. "Brachiosaurus," the nurse said. "Good choice," Nora said, with the confidence of a person who had spent serious time thinking about this exact issue. Daniel watched her and felt something tighten in his chest. He posted a video that night. Nora doing a magic trick she'd been practicing for 2 weeks. A card trick where she never quite got the reveal right, but committed to it with such theatrical flair that it didn't matter. It got 3 million views overnight. The comment said, "She's going to be a star." He read that 3 times. Then he put down his phone and cried quietly in the dark for the first time. Here's what no one saw. The blood draws. The waiting rooms that all started to look the same. Same beige walls, same tired magazines, same fish tanks that were supposed to be calming, but mostly just made him feel like time was moving too slow and too fast at once. The specific sound Nora made when they couldn't find a vein and had to try again. The way she stopped making that sound after the 4th or 5th time. The way she just turned her head and looked at the wall and went somewhere else in her mind. He kept filming because it was the only language he had left for love. He filmed her making birthday cards for people she'd never met. She started a project where she mailed hand-drawn cards to strangers she found in online forums for people going through hard things. People with sick parents or lost jobs or broken hearts. She had a waiting list. He filmed her teaching herself to whistle. It took 11 days. When she finally got it, she ran through the apartment making the same single note over and over like she'd unlocked something ancient and powerful. He filmed her sitting by the window on the bad days, watching the street below, narrating what she saw with the calm authority of a nature documentarian. And here we see a man who is definitely late for something. He has the look of a person who forgot to charge his phone. This will be a difficult morning for him. The internet fell more in love. More comments. More messages. More people saying she gave them something they couldn't name. And every night, after she was asleep, Daniel would sit in the kitchen under the single overhead light and opened his notebook. Not a journal, just a notebook where he kept her numbers, white blood cell counts, hemoglobin levels, the names of medications he'd had to learn to pronounce, appointment dates, follow-up dates, the name of the specialist 4 cities away whose secretary had told him there was a 3-month wait. He called every day until they moved them up. He never posted about any of it. This was her channel, her joy, her world. He refused, absolutely refused, to let the hard parts touch it. She knew. He understood that the morning she climbed into bed next to him before sunrise and said very quietly, "Daddy, am I going to be okay?" He didn't answer right away. He pulled her close, felt the specific weight of her, the way her hair smelled like the strawberry shampoo they'd been using since she was 3, the way she fit against his side, like she was built for exactly that space. "I'm doing everything," he said. "Everything I know how to do." She was quiet for a moment. "That's not the same as yes," she said. He closed his eyes. "I know, baby." She didn't cry. She just lay there, and he lay there, and outside the window the sky went slowly from black to purple to particular pale gray of early morning. After a while she said, "Can we film something today?" He said yes. She decided she wanted to make paper boats. She'd seen a tutorial online and had been planning it for weeks. They spent the whole morning at the kitchen table with newspapers and grocery bags and whatever else they could find, folding, increasing, and arguing gently about which boats were seaworthy and which ones were, in Nora's words, structurally a disaster. Then they went down to the little drainage creek behind the building, the one that wasn't really a creek, just where the rain collected, and they sailed their boats. Most of them sank immediately. One made it almost 30 feet. Nora cheered like she'd won the Olympics. He posted the video. No context. Just the 2 of them in the boats and her laughing when they sank and cheering when they floated. 22 million views. The most they'd ever gotten. He read the top comment that night until he had it memorized. "I don't know why I'm crying. There's just something about the way she believes in those little boats." He knew why. He knew exactly why. It was a Thursday. He remembered that specifically. Not because Thursdays meant anything, but because there was a specific TV show Nora liked that came on Thursday nights, and they had a whole ritual around it. Blankets on the couch. The particular brand of crackers she declared her official show crackers. He would do different voices for the commercials, and she would rate her performances on a scale of 1 to 10, never giving him higher than a 7 because, she explained, "There's always room to grow, Daddy." That Thursday, she fell asleep before the show started. He carried her to bed. When he came back to the couch, his phone was already lighting up. A message from the specialist, not from the office, from the doctor herself. He read it once. Then he sat down on the floor, not on the couch, the floor, his back against the couch, his phone face down on the carpet beside him. He sat there for a long time. The specifics of what she'd written. He could recite them if you asked him. He had them memorized the way you memorize something you never wanted to know. Words about progression. Words about the timeline they'd been hoping to avoid. Words about options that were not cures and conversations they needed to have. But in that moment, sitting on the floor in the dark, he wasn't thinking about words. He was thinking about the show crackers, the specific brand, the ones she decided were official. He bought 3 extra boxes last week because the grocery store had been running low and the thought of them being out of stock had made him irrationally anxious. 3 boxes. He sat there until he felt something settle in him. Not peace. Nothing like peace. Something more like the deep, forced stillness of a person who has decided not to fall apart. He had things to do. He had a daughter to wake up to. He got up off the floor. He did not post a video that night. They noticed before he said anything. That was the thing about people who love you from a distance. They see the shape of you before they understand what's changed. The first Miss Week, the comments were gentle. "Hope everything's okay." Miss Nora, Come back soon. Taking a break. Completely understand. Rest up. By the second week, something shifted in the comment sections. People were still kind, but there was a new frequency underneath the kindness. A worry they were trying to keep light. Guys, I keep checking back. It's been 11 days. Has anyone heard anything? The last video, she looked a little tired. I've been thinking about it. Someone went back through the old videos and made a timeline, not with bad intentions. Just the way people do when they love something and feel it slipping and try to make sense of it by laying everything out in order. They noticed the way Nora had stopped running in the later videos, how she'd been sitting more, how her laugh had changed, not disappeared, never disappeared, but shifted somehow, a little quieter, a little more deliberate. Someone wrote, I think she might be sick. I think that's what this is. It got thousands of replies. Some said, don't assume, don't speculate. Some said, I thought the same thing. I didn't want to say it. One reply, buried deep in the thread from an account with no followers, said simply, when my son was ill, we used to film him too, so we could remember. I hope that's not what this is, but I understand if it is. Sending love. That reply got pinned to the top because it said the thing everyone felt but didn't have language for. The channel had always been about joy, but grief had been in the background of it the whole time, quiet and patient, waiting for permission to be seen. It took him 6 weeks. 6 weeks before he picked up the camera again. And when he did, it wasn't to film Nora. He filmed himself. He sat at the kitchen table, the same table where they'd made the paper boats, where she'd stirred her pretend soup, where he'd helped her with 100 homework assignments, and he looked into the camera for a long moment before he said anything. He looked tired. He looked like someone who had been carrying something heavy for a very long time and had only recently put it down long enough to breathe. He said, I don't know how to do this. Long pause. I've been making videos for 4 years, and every single one of them has been about her, her joy, her world, the way she sees things. I never wanted to make it about anything else. This channel was never supposed to be sad. He looked down at his hands. Back up. Nora has been sick. I should have told you. I think I didn't tell you because saying it out loud made it more real. And I needed it to stay something that was just ours for a little while longer. He talked for 20 minutes. He talked about the diagnosis and the treatment and the long drives to the hospital and the paper boats and the show crackers and the night he sat on the floor and the moment she asked him if she was going to be okay and what he said and what he didn't say. He talked about the way she had asked 2 weeks into treatment if they could please start filming again. She said, and I want to get this right because I've been thinking about it every day since. She said, Daddy, the videos aren't for me. I know that. They're for the people who need them, and they still need them. He stopped. He breathed. She's 7 years old, and she said that. He posted the video with no thumbnail, just a plain black image and a single title. Her name is Nora, and she asked me to keep going. It became the most watched video on the channel. By a distance that wasn't even close. This part is the hardest, not because of what happened, though what happened was the hardest thing, but because of what she left. Because Nora, in the quiet and particular way she did everything, had been filming too, on a tablet she'd asked for at Christmas. In the small hours of mornings when she couldn't sleep, in the spaces between everything else, she'd made a video for her father. She never told him. She gave it to the nurse and asked her to keep it safe. She said, give it to him when the time is right. You'll know when. The nurse knew when. It was 17 minutes long. Most of it was just Nora talking to the camera the way she always had. Easy and direct and completely herself. She talked about her favorite things in no particular order. The whale going to school drawing. The boats. The Seven the Crackers always gave his commercial voices. Then, near the end, she got quiet. She looked at the camera for a moment. "Daddy," she said, "I know you're going to want to stop filming. I know it's going to feel wrong without me in it, but I think you should keep going." She tucked her hair behind her ear, the way she always did when she was about to say something important. "Not for me. I know it's not about me anymore. But for the next kid in the waiting room who's scared. For the next dad on the floor in the dark. Film for them. Because that's what the videos always were. They were never just ours." She smiled. "The real one. The one that started on one side before it went all the way. Also, your commercial voices deserve at least an 8. I was being tough on you. Sorry about that." Daniel posted the video 8 months later. He said almost nothing in the caption, just the date she had filmed it, and a single line. She knew, even then, that love is something you keep giving away. The channel is still going. He films quietly, carefully. Children in hospital waiting rooms who want to show him something. Parents who have written to him from the dark of their own kitchen floors. Small moments that don't announce themselves. A kid getting a good report. A father learning to braid hair because he has to. A little boy who has decided that his 4-pole needs a name and has chosen Gerald. Nora's drawings are still on the wall. The whale going to school. The polar bear sleeping in the clouds. He leaves the camera on sometimes when the apartment is quiet and you can just see the light coming through the window and landing on those drawings. Just the colors. Just the evidence that she was here, and she was joyful, and she was entirely herself until the very last moment. No caption on those. He doesn't need one. Some things say everything just by being. She didn't go viral because she was extraordinary. She went viral because she reminded us what we all already are, alive and laughing and building boats that might not float, but setting them on the water anyway. If this story stayed with you, make sure you're here for the next one. Subscribe and be part of these stories.